Hello my sweets, it's Keisha. If you're returning to my channel, welcome back. If you're new, welcome, and I hope you consider subscribing. Today I've joined in collaboration with some of my YouTube friends to bring you Mother's Day gift ideas. I'll be sharing how I made these beautiful bird cages that double as trinket boxes, perfect for Mother's Day or everyday decor. So when you're done watching my video, be sure to check out the link to the playlist in the description box below. Alright, let's get started. To begin, I cut 2 pieces of poster board at 1 inch by 14 inches. Next, I drew a line 1/4 inch from the edge of each poster board. Taking a paper mache box from Dollar Tree, I form a circle inside using one of the poster board strips and secure it with hot glue. And then I trim the excess. Then taking my scissors, I cut snips from the edge up to the 1/4 inch line. Then I folded down the snipped area towards the inside of the ring. Next, I applied wood glue and a couple dabs of hot glue and placed the poster board ring on the outer side of the lid. I repeated this for the second lid and set them aside to dry. Once the glue was dry, I painted the lids with Waverly chalk paint in white. Then taking Waverly chalk paint in ink, I painted the bottom of the boxes and set them aside to dry. Here I'm deciding what base I want to use on one of my boxes as a pedestal. Any one of these would have been a great choice, but in the end I chose the pinch bowl. These can be found in sets of 3 or 4 at Dollar Tree. I painted it using the ink chalk paint after wiping it down with rubbing alcohol. I did 2 coats, letting the paint dry between coats. This next part is completely optional, but I decided to cover my boxes with scrapbook paper. Other options would be to paint it or use gift wrap or even fabric. Using my paper cutter, I cut the paper down to size for both boxes. I also cut a piece of coordinating paper to go around both lids. Next, I used Mod Podge to apply the paper to the boxes and the lids. You'll notice the paper isn't long enough to cover the lid, and I'll address that later. I divided the lids into 8 equal parts and placed small tick marks as a guide to drill holes. Using my drill with a 7/64 bit, I drilled the holes in both lids, then sanded down any rough areas. Next, I cut 8 12-inch pieces of this floral wire from Dollar Tree. Then I inserted the wire into one of the holes in the lid and bent it to determine where I would bend the following wires. It was about 1 inch. Next, I reinserted the wire and secured it by bending the wire around itself using needle nose pliers. I did the same for the 7 following wires. Once complete, I gave the tops of the wires a slight bend 1 inch down from the top. Next, I cut a piece of this thinner floral wire to secure the top of the birdcage wires. I did this by slightly curving 2 wires that were opposite of each other, then wrapped them together with the thinner floral wire. Once the first 2 were secured, I chose the next 2 wires to curve and secure. I continued in this fashion until the entire top was enclosed. Next, I curled the ends using my needle nose pliers. This is how it looks when complete. For the second birdcage, I decided to do a different style. I began by cutting 4 24-inch pieces of wire. Next, I bend the wire into a U shape. Then I take my needle nose pliers and bend one side of the wire in 1 inch from the end. I insert the wire into one of the drilled holes, then I bend the other side of the wire the same way as the first. This end is inserted opposite of the first wire. I repeated this with the remaining 3 wires. Next, I cut a 10-inch piece of wire to wrap around the top to keep the wires of the cage in their respective place. The last step for this one is to secure the wires to the lid by bending the ends around themselves. I decided to give the base a little more height by adding a Dollar Tree napkin ring. I gave it 2 coats of Waverly chalk paint in ink, letting it dry in between coats. When the napkin ring was dry, I attached it to the pinch bowl using a strong adhesive and hot glue. Next, I took 2 of these wooden heart stickers left over from Valentine's Day and applied Waverly Wax in Antique with a baby wipe. I was feeling like the boxes were a little plain, so I decided to add some lace from my stash. I don't show it, but I added lace to the top and the bottom. Using some beads from this value pack purchased at Michael's, I add 4 to the bottom of the box with the lace on it. While the adhesive was setting up on the beads, I glued some jewels around the napkin ring. Next, I hot glued the heart onto the space where the scrapbook didn't cover. Next, using a strong adhesive, I applied the base to the other box and set it aside. To make a nest, I used an empty ribbon spool with the cardboard removed, some Spanish moss, and a small amount of floral moss. To form the nest, I placed a chunk of Spanish moss over the ribbon spool and began to glue it around the sides. My goal is to make the spool completely disappear underneath the moss. Once I was satisfied with the coverage, I added small pieces of floral moss randomly around the nest. Taking these greenery bouquets, I decided to make an arrangement in one of the bird cages. I began by cutting them apart, then randomly sticking them into the floral foam. There is no rhyme or reason to the placement. I just know that I want it to look like a wild, floral, and greenery explosion. I am so sorry. I lost the rest of the footage of decorating the bird cages, but please stay tuned for the final photos. Don't forget to check out the playlist linked in the description box below. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the like button and leave me a comment below. If you'd like to see more, subscribe to my channel and select all notifications so you don't miss my next video. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, love, inspire, create. See you next time.